This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel said it best, the whole of the Auburn experience. It includes one of Auburn's favorite sons finally running out of a tunnel as the head coach, albeit interim, of the Auburn Tigers. It includes freezing your buns off on steel seats that we hope someday are going to be renovated into something maybe a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more spacious. It includes someone getting engaged on the field in that given game. It includes many things, even more sports. But of course, what we discuss here on this podcast is all about the sports, all about the culture, and namely, all about the family. And because it's about family, I have to have a friend and an Auburn family member on this podcast with me, Austin Scott. Welcome back to episode 12.
Thanks, Kyle. War Eagle. Is there another weekend in the most recent past that has encompassed the Auburn experience more than the one we are now ending?
No, but also now I'm concerned that you have like ESP or something. Like, are you future seeing? Like, are you a futurist? Like, are you seeing off in the future? Is that what's going on here with that turn of phrase?
Maybe what's the term? Freudian slip? Maybe Freudian slip of hopefully more Auburn experiences like this weekend to come. We'll put it that way.
Don't you tease me? Don't you tease me, sir? Listen,
no, but it was such an incredible weekend.
My little Auburn heart is so full right now. I just don't know that I can have another bite. I know. Okay, so let me just say this for all the listeners. We're going to be discussing basically ad nauseum this weekend. Cadillac, not necessarily the X's and O's of the games unless it just happens, but just this weekend. Maybe we'll get into some substantive stuff if it flows that way throughout the show tonight. But I got to riff about some of this stuff, man, because this has been a year and it hadn't been fun a lot of the time. It's been interesting. Hadn't been fun a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But gosh, man, sometimes you just come upon something that you never in your wildest dreams thought you would see. You know, you think back, for me personally, I am older than Austin. Yes, you can tell if you're watching live of the hairline right now. But I was young once, and I remember sitting, on the floor watching Cadillac Williams run over everybody, run past everybody. Everybody thinks about the go crazy Cadillac, go crazy moment, but I remember, overtime versus Syracuse. I was there for that. That was like his coming out party. I remember, an Arkansas game where he just went nuts as well. I remember him getting hurt time and time again at the end of the season, never being able to really truly complete a season until his senior year. And, it was such a big part of my childhood watching Cadillac Williams. So yeah. Let me start there, Austin, because I think to encompass this discussion and the significance behind this weekend, we have to kind of talk about our history with Cadillac. And for those of you that are listening off in the future, obviously we're talking about Cadillac Williams coming out as the interim head coach in Auburn's 2022 season in the Texas A&M game. Just incredible. So like your background, you're a little bit younger than me. What was your understanding of Cadillac growing up? Is it different from mine? Is it something that you grew into? Like any differences there?
Yeah, no, very similar. I was about, 5, 6, 7, 8 area during Cadillac's time at Auburn. So, had a 24 jersey, loved watching Cadillac and Ronnie and them evolve into, like you said, kind of culminating into what the season that was, where they put it all together. And so, have known ever since they left campus as players that they've gone down in Auburn lore and Auburn legends. And so it still is very surreal. And I think we all kind of needed to see it with our own eyes this weekend of him lead the team out of the tunnel and be the head coach inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. And he was, and he got a win. And it's so amazing to think about even still. And I think it from like the very beginning of the day when it was like, all right, the day's come all the way up to running out of the tunnel through the game that it was, and then going back for those of us that were at the game, going back and watching the pregame interview and the postgame interview and seeing all the pictures. Um, and it's just like, yeah, like it really happened and it's still happening. And it's just hard to believe. It's really hard to put it all together to think about these are the same people, right? Like these are the same people or this is the same running back from our childhood that we loved to see the ball get handed off to every week. And now he's running down the sideline with the current running back also getting the ball. Like it's some kind of we're almost to Christmas. It's some kind of Hallmark movie is what it feels
Oh, you
like.
almost ruined it by saying Hallmark movie because listen, just I'll pull the curtain back for my own family. Sorry, mom. My mom has Hallmark on like nonstop at her house during Christmas time, but also like in July when they, for some odd reason, do a July marathon because it's Christmas in July, all that stuff. So that almost ruined that whole experience you describing as that for me. I had like a little twitch when you said that. But I get what you're saying. It doesn't seem real. I woke up this morning and I literally just had to remind myself what I just experienced. And again, I know we're speaking a lot of hyperbole here and we're acting like we won the national title or something like that. But I think what a lot of fan bases, certain ones that were trying to belittle this weekend, are getting at and don't understand is that this is much deeper. And Cadillac, I don't know that I ever saw him being the one to encompass that. Not that I doubted he could. It's just you look at a Cody Burns, right? Cody
Yeah,
Burns came here with the expectation to be a starter and, gave up the starting, not gave up, obviously he was beat out, but, graciously stepped aside to take on a different role and became a beloved figure at Auburn. So, he has that story. Cadillac came here as a star, left as a star. And so it's kind of like, all right, your place is cemented. I didn't think
yeah.
I could love you any more than I do. But then you have to go and win the interim head coaching job. The only thing that happens greater than this is he becomes the head coach. We're not going there necessarily just yet, but because I don't know that I can even fathom the possibility of that, even discuss if that should be happening. But it's real, Austin. We just
Oh
watched
yeah.
Cadillac lead our team to a victory in Jordan Hare.
Oh yeah. And it's a thing where like you were getting to, it's just need to just live in the moment of it and enjoy it. And that is something apparently that is incredibly hard to comprehend for other fan bases and other teammates. And like we know we're not likely going to a bowl game, okay? But after the entire first half or first 2/3 of the season and apathy setting in and just people getting frustrated every week bickering about different things that are useless. This was a weekend where, all right, we got to cap it. We got to cap it off with if that's the last big game of the year, and it is the last big home game of the year
Right.
against the last SEC team, then that's what we get to remember about. Like
Mhm.
for me, I think when I'm have my kids growing up and they ask about the 2022 season, sure, we're going to talk about Brian Harsin got fired mid-season probably. But immediately following, and the record will be there, 5-7, 4-8, whatever. Immediately following, it'll be, oh yeah, and Cadillac Williams was the interim head coach, if not the head coach, for 4 games.
Yeah.
Like, and he went, who cares what the record was? It was like, yeah, it really happened. And that A&M game, his first game at home, was about as electric as you're going to see it as a team with a losing record.
Yeah. Quick
Like
question.
that's what I'll remember.
Yeah, quick question. Was that atmosphere better than the Penn State game?
I think so.
You you think so? I've
I mean, because
debated that with a
after
few people.
halftime of the Penn State game, it went so downhill. Like
Yeah.
the on in the atmosphere, the performance on the field, like nothing happened. It was like we were just taking it on the chin over and over and over. Like the whole, I mean, it helps that the game was close, that the atmosphere stays high. I mean, I think there's another element to it, right? Like the atmosphere leading up to the Penn State game was because it was Penn State. The game before had help was fun and competitive, and Penn State doesn't come here very often. There were so many more elements to this game that kept the atmosphere electric and consistent, I think.
Yeah, it's to me, it's the best one of the year. Mainly not just because, mainly because of Cadillac. I mean, the Penn State was electric because it was a huge matchup at the time. Auburn still had its season in front of them. Penn State had their season in front of them as well. It was kind of the separating part for both of these teams at the beginning of the year, and boy, did they separate really, really badly. But
Yes.
kind of going back to what you're saying about the significance of this game. For me, this has changed the trajectory of what I tell my kids. You talked about the 2022 season, but when I talk to people, when I tell my kids about Cadillac Williams, whatever the rest of his story here is at Auburn now, in the future, whatever,
Yep.
my story would have been, uh, hey kids, your dad literally went crazy when Cadillac went crazy in front of his dad and like threw himself up against the front door of our house just because he couldn't contain his excitement, and like fell on the floor, just kicking and screaming, just like couldn't believe his favorite player just went 80 yards on Alabama in the Iron Bowl. That was going to be my story. That's not the first story that I tell them now. The story that I will tell them is the story of the 22 season and how he walked out there as the head coach. Sure, not in the most exciting of games. Sure, not in the best of seasons, but because of what he means now in terms of what
Oh
he's
yeah.
doing for those players and what he's preaching about and what he's living by example. It goes to this is more than just a game. Football's great, but it ain't the only thing. And I think he gets that and he exemplifies that. And I didn't ever think that I'd be saying that about a Cadillac, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. Not that I had misconceptions
Yeah.
about him.
No, and well, I think a lot of the times you hear these stories of people that take over for their alma mater, like as a coach, and it's not the stars that were players. Like it's their alums. People knew who they were, but it's not the elites. And Cadillac is one of the elites of Auburn football
Right.
ever. Like, so yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, and I think it's gonna be it's crazy how much his legacy is added to and tweaked now when people think of Cadillac. Like, there's gonna be there's a lot of kids, young people who will now think of Cadillac first as the coach,
Yep.
and the first time, like a lot of my sister is a senior at Auburn. She was born in '01, and so she was like 3 when Auburn went undefeated in '04. Like, she has no remembrance of Cadillac as the player.
Right.
Well, yeah, last night was her last home game, big home game as a student, and she was second row, and she saw Cadillac 10 yards in front of her with Tank Bigsby coming through the stands, high-fiving everybody, and she got an incredible last SEC home game. Like, that's what she's going to remember about Cadillac the most. And I think that's going to be the truth for a lot of people.
It's funny how the story can change simply from just a football play to what you mean now for the program. And that's the story of
Yeah.
Cadillac that's thankfully right now present and maybe growing. We'll see in the future. I do want us to spend another segment talking about this weekend Cadillac, just because I don't know that I can fully encompass how I feel about this, how you feel about this, and maybe we can spend some time here talking about what we experience, not just in the game, but throughout the weekend with all of this. Anything that you want to share on that? I just want to last thing is this is the thing I tweeted out about just the whole feeling of it. Saw the last 3 head coaches' first win in Jordan-Hare: Gene, Malzahn, and Harsin. Yeah,
Me too. Me too.
I feel
Yeah.
like every time you say Harsin now, you got to be and Harsin. Just the way it kind of goes now. Um, but I saw Cadillac's first one, and now I don't know that I can not continue this streak. Hopefully, this is not a streak that we have to have continuing for quite some time, but
Yeah.
it's a it was a novel thought that came into my head throughout this weekend, and I couldn't fathom it was going to be as we talked about in the first little bit. I just can't process all that. All right, so let me ask you this, Austin. Did you make it to Tiger Walk?
We did not.
You
No,
didn't. Oh,
we did
Austin.
not.
Oh,
I know it.
Austin.
Look, I don't want to make excuses, but we talked about it on the show. I got a very pregnant wife, and it does not feel good.
You're gonna
It
play
was
that
very
card
cold.
right now?
I'm gonna play that card. Look, but we watched we already talked about the Penn State game, and that Tiger Walk was supposed to be insane, and it was.
It was.
But that I have never seen that many people, especially given the product on the field and the record and what it is. That was unbelievable. The amount of people that decided to show up at Tiger Walk for
Yeah.
Cadillac's first Tiger Walk as interim head coach. It was unreal.
You can call this hyperbole, which is very prevalent in this episode. That was an Iron Bowl type of Tiger Walk.
Mm,
I'm not going to say it rivaled every Iron Bowl because I still to this day, the 2013, the kick six, that the electricity in the air. I talked about, prominent Auburn people and just everyday fans like us about that weekend. They all expressed the same. There was an electricity, Thursday evening before it even got there. But
mm.
the electricity that arose in an insignificant, in terms of the results of the end of the year, like this type of game, it just didn't. It does. This is back to the theme. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem like two things should coincide: the electricity and this reality of what this game ultimately doesn't really mean much for Texas A&M and Auburn in terms of, yes, technically we're fighting for a bowl, but that you kind of get what I'm saying there, in terms of the overall outlook of a general college football perspective. But Tiger Walk was just amazing. I mean, I think there were grown men crying. I'll be honest with you, Austin.
Yeah.
I think I heard some open weeping behind me. I'm not going to act like I didn't get a little teary eyed, when that man ran out of the tunnel. I'm not ashamed. I got a little misty. I didn't bawl, but I swear I heard someone just crying their eyes out back there. So
That's
it was,
fantastic.
it was incredible. I mean, just you could see people. So, okay, let me give everybody a perspective. By the way, we always do an impromptu meetup of E2C people at the Tiger Walk right in front of the banner. I'm usually to the right of it because of where the sun, I don't care about that, but the details of all that. But that being said, normally I try to leave to get to Tiger Walk, which is about where, depending on where I am on campus, 10, maybe 15-minute walk if I take my time. So usually that puts me at Tiger Walk 45 minutes before they're scheduled to come down. This day, I just had this feeling I need to get there way earlier than that. So I told myself I was going to be at Tiger Walk an hour before. I left an hour and a half before, and I got there an hour and 20 minutes before. And so did shout out to Clinton Austin. Not Clinton Austin. There you are. You're right in front of me. Clinton Autumn.
Here I am.
Poor Autumn. She's going to hate me now for mixing you two up. And it was already just piled into the very, the coveted spots, the front parts up at there where the buses unload and, people started. It was almost like we started the middle row or the middle section there and people just kept squeezing in. So you like holding your spot. And we could hear Cadillac coming from a mile off. Couldn't see him. Like I've seen Harsin all the way up the hill from where we normally are because, even on a big Tiger Walk for them, but I couldn't see Cadillac. All I could do was hear him coming just because of the crowd. And then all of a sudden, here this man is coming up underneath and just happy as can be, so appreciative. The players just looked ecstatic. I don't know that we'll ever experience a Tiger Walk like that where one of your favorite sons walked down as an interim head coach. And here's the crazy thing, Austin. It still wasn't real to me. Like, I was like, I've seen him come through Tiger Walk thousands of
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
a few times. I still don't believe this. But then we went in the game. So I've talked a lot about Tiger Walk. What your experiences in the game, like what did you notice about Cadillac or just anything in there that just kind of went through your mind and your experience during the game with him?
Yeah, well, I saw that you or the E2C accounts, we had this too. But we were walking, my wife and a friend of mine who came in from Texas that I went to school with. We were walking in, and we were coming around on the road in front of the student section entrance where the statues are, and we're about to make our way. We wanted to show him he hadn't been back to campus since in a while, and we wanted to show him the new coaches statues that were down by the recruiting
Right.
entrance, and so. So we're walking around, and then we're gonna go in up on the front side of the stadium. So we're on the street, and Jacob and I are talking, and all of a sudden I see Coach Tuber or Senator Coach whatever
I saw him
Tuberville walking
too. I'm
before him.
so glad that
Yep,
somebody else saw him.
and he's just walking with someone, and I just leaned and said, "War Eagle coach." He said, War Eagle. He no security, no nothing. He's just trying to. I think he's trying to get to that entrance in
Right.
between, the middle under the AU, and so I was like, "All right, one of his players. He's here to see him coach his first game. That's a big deal. Like that's a U.S. senator, regardless of your opinions. That's a U.S. senator
Right.
that just walked by on Auburn's campus. He's here to see the game." So I was like, "Oh, this feels a little special." We go up all the way around, we get in, we get to our seats, and the hype video the new hype video, by the way, which was great, plays, the tunnel video, or everything. They start, and the doors open, right? And they're locked arm in arm, just like the old days, hard fighting soldier style. And they're and he's brought it back. And I don't know if he'll do that every game or not, but I that's when I lost my mind for just a second. And I'm jumping on Jacob, I'm hugging Emily. She's like, they're locked arms, what's the big deal? And I'm just like, this is a reference back, and it is just so pivotal. And so I think that at that moment, when they're walked out and they're locking arm in arm, just like the old days, um, it hit me. It hit me big, and it was like, let's go. And now that I've seen his right there when Cole Kublik's interviewing him, now that I've seen that and heard what he's saying, and he just is screaming, "Let's play ball!"
Yeah.
I don't know how you could be a player in that moment and not be like, "Oh, let's go hit somebody."
Look, there's been a lot of debate today, especially on social media, about people,
Yep,
frankly, just being people.
yep,
Yeah, I'll be nice about that was too long. That he should have gotten out of the way. I am so glad he captured that moment because
yep,
we got to experience in the stands. Yes, we depending on where you're sitting, you probably couldn't hardly see him until he got fully out of the tunnel and stuff like that. But for the people that couldn't attend, because let me remind you, 3 and 6 sold out like we were playing for a national title. Just outstanding atmosphere. These people couldn't get in the stands, but they got to see that experience and hear him say, "Let's go play ball." Like when I saw that he said that, if they had somehow put that up onto the Jumbotron,
whew,
I think we would have just had people passing out, just like just falling over. Like they would go instantly silent in the stadium just because we could not take it anymore. We have no more feels to give to you, Cadillac, because you just like owned us all. Everybody's running through walls figuratively at this point. So, just what? We do 3 segments in the show. Let's just continue it through another one because I'm not done yet. I don't know how you can be done. This is pretty much just the go crazy podcast for us in this episode. With that being said, a few more thoughts on it. In the first game that he coached away against Mississippi State, I looked at him on there and you could see the almost wide-eyed, and he's admitted as much,
yeah,
right? Coach Cadillac said,
right,
I've been scared, he was scared about today. He's very vulnerable about what he said, that his running backs came to him and just checked in on him because they knew how nervous he
yeah,
was about all this. But even last week, and you could see he wasn't scared, but he was just kind of wide-eyed, trying to manage everything in a really crazy week. Again, I know I'm talking in hyperbole. I get it. I know that I'm sensationalizing everything, but there was a moment I kind of pictured in my head on the Jumbotron, and there's this stance that every head coach has, almost like where it's not like where they're mad or anything like that, but it's that kind of, they're doing the chess, the math in their head kind of through situations. And I
yeah,
looked at Cadillac Williams, and he was no longer Cadillac Williams, interim head coach. That was head coach. Like this, he to me in that moment, no offense, Brian, I defended you a lot, but he looked more head coach worthy just because of everything from this weekend. And I saw a guy that seemed, yes, starstruck at times, but a guy that was ready for that moment. And as much as you can be being thrust in for going from running backs coach to head coach. So did you notice anything about him on the field or anything like that? That Like anything that kind of caught you, oh, he's being caught starstruck or anything like that.
Yeah, not so much as this weekend. I think it was easy for us, like you said, easy for us to see last week and the crazy week that they had, hardly getting any sleep, trying to figure all that out right on the fly. This week, I think he was just as excited to get back home and play in front of an incredible environment. Um, but it definitely felt like, he trusted Will Friend to do his thing
Yep.
play calling, and they weren't running around with their heads cut off, looking for the analytics guy or
He and
whatever,
Zach weren't racing, blowing each other's,
Yes,
hamstrings out.
exactly. Like there was a little more structure, and they felt a little bit more confident going in, and I think that's just natural when you have time to
Right.
prepare, and time to get normal hours of sleep throughout the night, and so I think that definitely helps his case. I thought really interesting, and I keep harping on these speeches, but I could listen to him talk all the time. But his post game with Cole, and he's kind of encompassing everything about what
Mhm.
it's been for him to be a coach. And I don't think he was taking shots at Brian Harson. I've seen people
No.
say that, and I
No.
don't think it was the
That's what
case.
people are wanting to see.
But his spin on how to relate to these kids and tell and saying, "We need to let them know that it's okay to fail and that it's okay to mess up, and we as coaches, it's our job to be there and pick them back up, and it's our job to make sure that they're set up in a better scenario." Um, and I think that's his perspective from being a player and also his
Exactly.
perspective of now coaching for a while, that and I know other coaches are usually players. I'm just saying I think it's his perspective of what it takes to play at Auburn and what it takes to be in the SEC, and the kind of pressure and you welcome as by playing at Auburn.
Right.
And so I think that part of it is him. That is, to me, that was part of this is now Coach Lack. It's not just kind of like the player. This is Coach Lack, as it's more important to him. Maybe not more. Uh, it's important to him about the person behind the helmet and in the jersey, and that those kids know that they can be set up on the field and off the field, and you can see that. And I think that's absolutely why they love him. I'm not saying they didn't love Brian Harson, but I think that's why that it's been so easy for them to transition and play for him, and the results have shown.
It absolutely has shown the energy is just out the roof, uh, right now and was this weekend. And I'm speechless at times just trying to put all this into words. When you're talking about the whole tunnel thing and how you relate to these kids, what he was expressing that post game, it really goes back to, kind of the way Tommy did things. And you can see you are a product of who you spend your time, who's influential in your life, right? You're not exactly that same person, but you can see that. And listen, we're not getting into the Tommy being political now and all that kind of stuff, or whether you think he's a good person or not. But I think it shows a lot that the guy came to be there for that game. And Tommy was known in most circles for being a pretty hard-nosed coach, but he's still the guy that, brought out the interlocking arms thing and talked a lot about, family and there's just some interesting parallels there. And seeing Cadillac model some of that with his own flair, I kind of at times felt like I was kind of watching Tommy a little bit, but not to take anything away from Cadillac in saying that. Just it's interesting watching it. It's a circle, right? It really is.
Yeah.
We just it felt like we got so far away and we just finally found that circle back to something we knew and love, and that's Caddy. I mean,
Yeah, no, 100%. And like you said, I think it is a product of what he saw as a player, and I mean, we all use our own experiences when trying to move forward and grow. That's just natural life. But I think for him, it's been a development of coaching and understanding what's important to him,
mm,
and sometimes kids need to be loved, like he mentioned, off the field and in every area to trust
right.
you completely on the field and to follow you in the battle like that. And it's been remarkable to watch. And I feel like we're all growing with him, growing with him, coaching and just having a good time. Enjoy. He's soaking it all in. And I keep telling Emily like the thing This is no shot against Brian Harsin. I want to keep reiterating that. The thing that I just keep saying is he just gets it. He gets what it means to be at Auburn.
Mhm.
He gets what it means to be in the SEC, and he values the title and
Right.
values the responsibilities with it. And you can tell. And there's something inspirational about seeing someone who values that and then going out and just trying their darndest to make people proud.
Yep. He said all the right things, and not just to say them, not just to do the right things, but you could feel it. And you know, yeah, is this a little cheesy, but I'm going to bring it up. We've already talked about his statements about how to, reach these players and stuff like that and how much that resonated with a lot of people. But for me, when he looked in that camera in that post game and say, Auburn's going to be all right.
Yeah.
I thought I said it already. How many more feels do I have left after this
Yeah.
weekend? Like you looked at that man in the eyes and you just know we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're winning a national championship year? No. Auburn's not going anywhere because this year, let's be honest, we've all felt it. We're all
Yeah.
worried that we're going to become the next Tennessee. Just being real. But Cadillac
Yeah, and
Williams
that's
looked at
not
us
the
in the eye.
Tennessee, like, of this year, that's, like, the Tennessee of, like, the last decade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but still, they still can't reach the mountaintop. So that still
Yeah.
tells you something. Just because you got a little hype, everybody can get up there every once in a while. But Auburn football, your coach told you, Coach Cadillac told you, it's not going anywhere. We're going to be all right.
No, and like you said, in the age of that we're in the modern era where we just love to blow things out of proportion and to get all worried about one game or one play, um, to hear, Auburn football is not dead and Auburn's gonna be okay, uh, it's just a bring deck down to earth moment for everyone. Like, don't social media is a scary place, and people on TV are designed to make sure those ratings stay high. People other places are designed to make sure those clicks stay high. Like, Auburn football is going to be okay. That's coming straight out of the mouth from the interim head coach and somebody who's with those guys every day and with the program. And by the way, sees the boosters, sees the inner workings. Just Auburn football is going to be okay. All right.
Yeah.
And like Kyle said, it doesn't mean oh, well, we're going to be okay. We're going on 10 wins every year. We're playing for an SEC title every other. That's not what okay means, but it doesn't mean the world's falling out either.
I think if anything else, now that it's just kind of hitting me as we're recording this. That's the moment that I'm going to tell my kids about. When Cadillac looked in that camera and said, Auburn's going to be all right. And it's not, and
Yeah.
as he said, that's not him saying because I'm in charge. He just knows. I don't know how much more you got to say about it. I'm going to start the waterworks here if we keep going on about this. So we had plans to maybe even dive into the ever changing coaching search. Probably don't have time for that now. This is kind of what I thought. Austin and I do a little prep work behind just kind of planning out what we're going to discuss. And I just told him, I said, look, I think we could just talk about this forever and probably, bore people a little bit, but this just need to be a love fest for Caddy and this weekend and what we all felt together. It was just, that's what the Auburn, this is what the Auburn experience is about. It's about,
100%.
is about the sports. It is about the culture, but it's about the family.
Yes.
So there's your slogan for the Auburn Experience podcast. Thank you, Coach Cadillac.
That's
Oh
right.
man. I Final question. What if? What if Austin? What if Austin?
It feels like more and more support is out there, right? And people can argue all day long. There's people on both sides already of, is that premature? Maybe. We're only 2 games in, right?
Mhm.
Like, but I mean, you know, it, people are that should show you what can happen when you find somebody who can unite the Auburn family and bring them together. None of us are all going to agree on everything all at the same time. Nobody on any spectrum of the world today is going to do that. But there's something to be said about what someone can do when they can unite and pull people together and move them in the same direction. And as of right now, Coach Lack is doing that, and that's something to be said about that.
My little Auburn heart wants it. I just don't know if it's going to get it. And not that I say that it's should happen, but I'm still asking what if. And we'll let you all continue to ask what if as we wait this coaching search out. We appreciate you all listening in on episode 12 of the Auburn Experience podcast. Never thought we would be 12 episodes in, much less talking about this particular topic in episode 12. It's going to be an interesting ride for the last bit of the season and throughout the rest of our episodes, covering all of this and talking about sports, culture, and family within the Auburn family. Austin, thank you for joining us on your way out. Where do they can they keep in touch with you?
Oh, Austin G. Scott on anything and everything. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want to find me on. I'll be there.
And you can find me on Twitter as well, at Kyle Loomis 24, or follow E2C Network there, E2C Network _ network, named E2C _ network. Follow us on all the social medias. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Episode 12 in the books. It was a good one. The Cadillac Lovefest. War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody.